Hi, everybody. Thank you so
Okay.
much for joining us today. I am very excited to talk to Dave Mack and hear his story about his success on a carnivore diet. Thank you so much, Dave, for coming over to my channel.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Sarah.
So, what brought you to a carnivore diet?
It's a long story. And basically it starts all the way back in 1992.
Wow.
So, 1992, I was a 17-year-old and I had a stroke. And as having that stroke, I was young, so I kind of recovered reasonably well from it. But I had a lot of lingering issues from that stroke, and I think one of the lingering issues that became a problem for me over the years is a dependence on alcohol. And there were other issues, and one of them was eating, and that all came to a head last year. And in June last year, my doctor told me that I was likely pre-diabetic, and I also needed to give up the alcohol, or there were going to be serious consequences. And he wanted to put me on a drug that would stop me drinking alcohol. It would literally force me to stop drinking alcohol, and it would do that by making the consequences of drinking very severe. So I'd take this drug, it wouldn't do anything. But if I drank alcohol after taking the drug, I'd get violently ill.
Okay.
So I didn't want
Remember
to
it?
do that.
And do you remember the
So,
name of that medication?
sure, it was called antabuse.
Okay.
Yeah. And I didn't want any part of this kind of thing. I've never been big on taking medications, because over the years and as a kid, I took so many that really didn't do anything. So I've always been kind of, I'll just get over it. I don't need to get a flu vaccine every year, that kind of thing. And so I decided, like, I'd been on low carb before, and I knew they gave me a lot of self-control, and self-control is what I needed at that point. And so I thought, maybe I can do this on my own. So I asked the doctor to give me a few weeks and let me try and sort it out myself. And I decided to go keto and give myself that self-control and see if I could kick the alcohol and the eating. And I was successful in doing that. But at the same time, I also caused some gastrointestinal issues. Um, and after doing a bit of research on YouTube, finding some videos by Ken Berry, I realized that the gastrointestinal issues may have been caused by the vegetables I was consuming. And so I decided to cut the vegetables out, and things got better. And I've been carnivore ever since.
Wow. Okay, so you've been carnivore for a year.
That's right. Yeah.
And before that, keto for how long?
Keto, in that particular phase, keto only lasted for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. But in the past, I've done keto before. I did Atkins back in 2000, and that kind of got the ball
Mm.
rolling. With It was just there was always so much negativity around the diet. That's why I'd go on it. I'd do really well for 4 or 5 months, and then I'd be like, pressure from friends or colleagues or stuff, people like that, or from the TV saying, you're going to die. This is going to give you a heart attack, blah, blah, blah. And the pressure just became too much. So I just went, yeah, they probably know what they're talking about. I'll go back to eating my cornflakes or whatever.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
because not everybody, can afford to spend 10 hours every day researching everything to have an answer for every single potential concern. And they're just constantly attacking it, to this day.
Mm.
Before we talk about the current your current experience with the carnivore diet, I am curious, do you know what could have caused a stroke at 17?
Yeah, I had a basilar artery aneurysm,
Mm-hmm.
and that the doctors told me was just caused by congenital weakness. And I went to bed on a Sunday night. I was already working full time at the time. I went to bed on a Sunday night in preparation for work on the Monday. And when I woke up on Monday morning, I was struggling to move
Mm.
and had a really bad headache. Fortunately, I've since heard and read stories about the thunderclap headache that people get when they have a burst aneurysm. And fortunately, I was asleep, so I missed that. Um, the reason I didn't die in my sleep was because I have unusually thick blood, so it clotted very quickly, and that might have been part of the poor diet. I don't know, but yeah, I've got unusually thick blood, so
Do you do something about that to this day with regards to the thickness of the blood?
yeah, I just basically since maybe 1993, since I had the final operation, I've just been taking half an aspirin a day.
Gotcha. And did you ever um, consider donating blood for that?
Um, I I've donating blood just like to the Red Cross, you mean?
In general,
Or
because this is
ah
like a
uh,
general thing that has come up as a recommendation, for viscous blood.
to
Thin
make
it
it thinner
out.
naturally.
Yeah.
So I have considered donating blood at lots of times in my life, but now that I'm in Japan, they've got a lot of rules about who they'll take blood from. And I lived in the United Kingdom during mad cow disease time.
Uh,
And so that kind of precludes me from donating blood in Japan.
wow. Okay. How long have you
Mm.
been in Japan?
17 years.
Okay, that's a very long time.
Long enough that I should know how to speak Japanese.
But
But,
you don't. It's hard
well,
from what I hear.
yeah, it is a hard language to learn, but that's no excuse after 17 years. But basically, as an English teacher, I don't have a lot of reason to speak Japanese. And in shops, people want to speak English with you. So yeah.
So you were born and raised in the United States, and then you lived for some time in the UK, and then you moved to Japan for work. Is that right?
No, no. So I was born in Scotland,
Right. I
hence the
should have known from the
complexion
accent. I don't know why you
and
said the United States.
and the red hair. And yeah, so I was born in Scotland, but when I was 6, my parents moved us to Australia, and I grew up in Australia. Unfortunately, I kind of got the accent, but the complexion never changed, despite being in the sun. Um,
Right.
and yeah, so I grew up in Australia, and then my time in London and stuff like that. That was just when I was about 20 years old. The company I was working for at the time were just sending me to different countries to help them open offices. So that was why I had the experience there.
I got it now. Okay.
Mm.
And do you ever feel homesick?
Sometimes, I like to. I, I went back at Christmas time to Australia, but yeah, I'd like to visit more regularly, and it hasn't been an option really over the last 3 years. So
Right, of
because
course.
of the lockdowns and all that kind of thing. But yeah, hoping I can get back there before the end of the year for a holiday.
Okay, well, now that I know everything about you, let's talk about the carnivore diet. So it's been working for you, and that's why you created this channel, I guess, right, to share your experience with it. Because when I was searching for you, when you were interviewed me first, and I'm interviewing you, so I was like looking you up, and I saw that you have also another channel, which is all business related, right? And so, and
That's
that's
right.
older, right? Do you still do anything on that? Do you still keep it updated?
Not as much anymore, because it basically the time that I have, I really want to devote it to my carnivore channel. And the main reason for that is because, as you say, I had the good results and I wanted to share my experience.
Mm.
After I really started to get the good results, I started to get really annoyed because all these people that whole time when I was trying to do low carb and stuff, they're all saying like, no, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to, you're going to kill yourself. The TV, the experts, everyone was saying, no, it's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. And I was really irritated this time around because I thought, it works. And I just want to kind of shout it from the rooftops. So I've, tired of the misinformation.
Yeah, and you also go through a phase where you're angry, angry as to why is it that the medical establishment and the dietitians haven't researched it. They don't bother to look into it. They just label it as a fad and move on. It can be very upsetting. Imagine me going through dietetic school in order to get healthier and actually being brainwashed in the complete opposite message, which only moves you further away from health. And then imagine all these years that I spent doing that. And even when I did my PhD, it's like never ever learned anything about anti-nutrients, plant toxins, anything like that. So it can be even more upsetting to me. It's like, did I just wait
Mm.
a decade, more than way more than a decade? I mean, just 7 years just for the doctorate. And then you got to add 4 years, dietetics school, 1 year, internship plus sitting for the exam, 2 years master's. So it's a long time. Yeah, it can be hard mentally to swallow that pill. I feel like maybe I did the wrong thing.
Yeah, I kind of had thoughts about that over the last, 6 months or so. And to me, it almost feels like they're happy to not investigate it further. They're happy that there's no information on it because they can just then dismiss it. If there
Exactly.
is actually hard information there, then they're more compelled to look at something and have a reasoned debate. But when no one does any studies, then they can just ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like those institutions, those academic institutions, they're not doing the studies. And because they're not doing the studies, they can dismiss it, and just dismiss the collection of literature. Because there are a lot of, there is a lot of literature, maybe not specifically on like a randomized controlled trial on a carnivore diet that's very recent, but like there are a lot of pieces of information here. There are a lot in the toxicity literature. There's tons on, the cancer causing properties of vegetables and plant foods, all that stuff. So they very conveniently turn a blind eye to that.
Mm.
So and then it's like a catch-22 situation. And then they don't do the recent, real hard, gold standard types of studies. And because they're not doing it, they can dismiss it and they're just stuck in that vacuum and just it's like a herd, that they're just following what the institution and the whole mainstream message is. I was very much so attacked by my colleagues of mine. Of course, they got a little taste of their medicine because you don't mess with me, but they tried. They tried, they thought that I was gonna sit and take it, They tried to be like, how, you should do better for your audience and you have this platform and you shouldn't, propagate the carnivore diet. But so that's their initial instinct, is to go and attack you, even though they're academics. They should know better. It shouldn't be this kind of like taboo. No topic should be off limits. But
Mm.
anyway, that's a whole a topic for another time. I want to hear more about your current experience on the carnivore diet. Do you
Mm.
experience cravings? Have you ever experienced cravings, or do you feel like you had a strong enough reason that it wasn't part of the equation? You wouldn't let yourself even contemplate veering off?
I've never been someone that has had that level of self-control, but I will say that once I got to a certain point doing the diet, the cravings did completely disappear. So there was never a point where I had this resolve, as far as I'm just that chocolate that's sitting there on the counter, there's no way I'm eating that, right? Like if it had been sitting on the counter, it would have been. So I had to uh, do things to avoid the temptation and the temptation of both sugar and alcohol.
Mm.
So what I did at the start is I changed my routines completely. So the keto was giving me a little bit more self-control, as I knew that it would, but I knew that if I was doing, the normal habitual things that I did every day, then the normal things would happen. And so I knew that if I was walking past the convenience store on the way home, then I would go and buy the potato chips, or I'd go and buy the beer to drink on the train on the way home, or I'd, you know, um, go and buy the ice cream. And so when I went to work, I didn't walk past the restaurants. When I came home, I didn't walk past the convenience stores. I took the long way around, and I missed my train often. But, just changing things like that gave me that self-control, I guess, but also, that variance that I needed to break the habits.
Very interesting. Did you ever slip up?
No, this time I haven't. And part of it may have been the threat of the medication that wasn't there before. But yeah, I mean, and the other thing was the transition to carnivore probably helped, like with the satiation that comes with that. And, the satiation was strong because it wasn't long after I started the diet that I went OMAD, and I went OMAD by accident. And that's when I really knew, wow, this is pretty powerful, like I can eat once and not feel hungry again. And so for 12 months, I've eaten one meal a day, basically. Um,
So you did
Weekends I'll have dinner with family, but apart from that.
so you did OMAD or one meal a day, not too long after starting carnivore. I am
Mm.
curious, do you do dairy?
I did, but I did a bit of a challenge a month or so back the only dairy I was doing was cheese.
Mm.
But I did a challenge a month or so back to get that out. And that seems to have had some good effects. So since I, like, within days of taking out the cheese, my stomach just went flat.
Mm.
Like, um, now when I'm standing up straight, um, to get the flatness that I've got now standing up straight, I would still have had to kind of tense my muscles. And I don't have to tense my muscles anymore. Like I'm sitting down now and there's nothing sticking, like there's no kind of sitting down lump or anything like that anymore. It's amazing. And I guess it was the dairy, and I guess it was somewhat related to some inflammation because the it couldn't have been fat loss or something like that because it just happened too quickly.
Right. It was like the bloating,
Mm.
the inflammation dropped, and yeah.
Mm.
That's what I end up always transitioning my clients to eventually. Like after we work, with the mindset and everything, it's hard at the beginning to tell them you got to do a lion diet and not, nothing else.
Mm.
Unless there's a very strong reason and they would do it then, like they have severe autoimmunity, they'll do a lion diet. But for just basic weight loss, we keep it in for a while if they're attached to it, but eventually I start like showing them and kind of like pinpointing how much faster they're gonna drop the fat, and also the body fat, actually, because if the addiction goes away, so they eat way less so quickly without even having to try. So eventually, once we take out the dairy, then it's like, wow, just they don't plateau ever. It's
Mm.
powerful, and yeah, the inflammation is a big deal. I think we're not supposed to eat dairy. We're the only species on earth that will consume the milk of a different species. There's, until we figure out all the different exact mechanisms by which dairy might be harmful for us, I think it's just good to have common sense and, just understanding that this isn't our species diet. And so it would make sense that it would be inflammatory. And we know that it is inflammatory anyway. So yeah, I'm so happy to hear that. So now you're not doing dairy. What does your
Yeah,
food meal plan look like right now?
it's very basic. And I'm a creature of habit, so it's the same thing every day. So I have 10 eggs scrambled in lard. And then I top that with 600 grams of beef, ground beef cooked in lard. And that's it. And
Okay.
lots of salt on it. Yeah.
Ground beef and eggs. How many ounces did you say of ground beef?
So it's 600 grams. So that works out just over a pound.
Right. I should know. So I grew up in Lebanon, where it's like the metric system. I should know this conversion, but I don't like to do math in public. I stole that from King. He's right. We don't like to do math in public. Not anymore. We're so reliant on our smartwatches and our calculators that it's like, yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
So 600 grams, that's like half a kilo of beef and eggs, and that's it every day. For how long has it been now?
Um, Without the cheese, yeah, it's been probably almost 2 months.
Okay.
And then including the cheese, that takes it back a year.
And coffee?
Too much coffee. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm still
coffee.
on coffee. That's something that um I know I should stop, and I know it would improve so many things about my life, including sleep, including things like anxiety. It would reduce the anxiety more than the carnivore diet has done already. Um, but it's just that one indulgence that I've got, and I love waking up and having that first coffee in the morning.
Yeah, I get it. My recommendation is you got to have a strong reason, right? Like a really strong reason. And not at the same time, you could argue that you don't always have to put that in your mind. You could say, like, I just want to progress in everything and I just want to get better in everything. So you could even take that route and just gradually set goals of, like, cutting it by half every few days. And then you can switch over to decaf if you still like that warm beverage. I think the anxiety, if you're feeling it, the biggest recommendation I would have is intense training. I used to
Mm.
struggle with anxiety too. And the intense, and I mean intense, which progressively gets more intense as you continuously push yourself. It's just wild what it does for your mental health, for your mood, not just like overall mood, but also like the anxiety goes away completely.
Mm.
So for me, that is something that I struggled with a lot, growing up in Lebanon and always being put down. Like as a woman in Lebanon, it's very hard. It's a harsh harsh way to grow up, you know. And then, you know, coming to the United States and having to teach the public speaking, like right away, the University of Miami, I was like, okay, now you're gonna be teaching. I was like, whoa, you know, I've done presentations, I've defended my thesis for my master's, but it's not the same as like the load of teaching. So all that really pushed me to look very deeply into everything anxiety related. Um, and of you know, experience, obviously, also the more you do something, the better you get at it, the more confident you get, the anxiety eventually goes away. But also just in general anxiety, not like situation specific, just general overall. You don't want to feel constantly like there's like this impending sense of doom. I think the
Mm.
exercise for me did it. Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, if anybody is listening, and I know this is a very, very, you know, common thing that people and like in my audience also struggle with, I think that they would also benefit a lot from this recommendation.
Yeah. And it is something I've definitely going to be working on, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that one thing that uh,
Yeah.
I keep setting a goal for myself and then going, yeah, but I'm enjoying it too much at the moment. But I do have to kick it eventually.
It's hard. It's hard. I know. But I
Mm.
mean, you've gotten the success anyway, you know, you've gotten the success on Carnivore.
Look, I mean, the thing is, I could never have anticipated that I would feel so good at 48 years of age, better than I did at 38 or 28 even. And to be honest, I was thinking about it the other day, and I don't actually remember a time since the stroke that I have felt this good. And that's in like I after doing carnivore, I no longer have arthritis. I can run faster than I've ever been able to since I was in high school. Um, I I can you know, my the stroke left me with a limp. Um, that limp has improved. My balance has improved. My strength on my right side has improved. Um, and you know, all of those improvements. I don't have gum disease anymore, which means I don't have bad breath. I don't have bleeding gums. I don't have sensitive gums and teeth. Um, yeah, it's and there's a whole load of mindset things and sleep improvements, but you know, I could never have imagined that you just hear stories from everyone, you know, they're getting into their late 40s, they get into their 50s and whatever. And it's just like, oh, I've got this new pain, I've got this new ache. You know, I went to the doctor today, he gave me some new tablets and he says I've got to go for a CT and blah, blah, blah. And I feel like I've taken 20 years off my life.
Wow.
Mm. Mm.
Wow. I can't ever get enough of these success stories, you know, it's just so exciting always to hear the transformations, and it happens so quickly, you know, it's like so
Mm.
fast that you see those results. Um, I'm wondering, do you include artificial sweeteners or electrolytes that are naturally flavored and have sweeteners in them?
No, I avoid any kind of flavoring. Yeah, the only flavoring I add to anything is salt now.
And I think that's also explaining why you're feeling so incredible, because I think people who keep those things in, the cravings can stay. And also the dopamine, because, you know, we've destroyed so much of our dopamine and D2 receptors with food addiction for so long that when you go on a carnivore diet, as long as you're doing it the way that you're doing it, that's a really good sober, food sober plan. Your brain naturally heals itself, right? It can take
Mm.
up to 2 years for the brain chemistry to go back to normal, but it doesn't mean that it happens overnight. It's like it gradually gets better and better and better. So you're like at the 1 year mark, which is really where probably 75% of the uh, healing has happened, and the remainder happens in the second year. And I think had you included the artificial sweeteners, you would have taken longer to feel this way,
Mm.
you know?
I don't doubt it. I think you're 100% right. Like I know myself as well, and I know that if I was to have anything sweet, even if it was like a Diet Coke, something like that, I'd be straight back into it. You know, I'd be straight back into the the chocolate, the whatever, because I just know myself. You know, it wouldn't happen immediately, but it would be like, I'd have the Diet Coke or something, and then I'd be okay. And potentially, the experiences I've had before is potentially you lose actually a little bit more weight by the next day or something, because I don't know, your body has kind of gone, hang on, this thing's foreign. We need to do a little bit extra work or something. And I don't know, your metabolism speeds up and you burn a bit of fat or something or whatever. But um, yeah, and then the next day or the day after, I'd be thinking, hey, I did all right after that Diet Coke, and it was kind of nice. I'll just have another one. And it's just that momentum that builds again, and I'm straight back into it. So, yeah, for me, it's like nothing sweet, no alcohol. Basically, treat it sugar as an alcoholic treats alcohol. I'm
Wow.
never touching alcohol again, never touching sugar again or sweet things again.
I love everything you just said. I especially loved that, yes, it doesn't happen immediately. And this is where people fall into that trap. They go on a carnivore diet, they get all the benefits, they get food sober, and then they'll have a little something because they got overconfident. And that little something,
Mm,
maybe a slice of cake at a wedding, maybe it was whatever it was. Nothing major happens. You have it and you move on and you think, oh, I can handle it now.
yeah.
Right? Or you have an artificially sweetened electrolyte drink or a protein bar. This is like something that I've fallen into that trap. And you think you can handle it because it doesn't, the binge thing, if you've struggled with that, which a lot of my clients have, it doesn't happen immediately. It happens a few days later or maybe a
Mm,
week later. But like you said, it's like it's this insidious thing that crawls back into your life because it's not damaging you in a one direct hit in one day for you to say, okay, that's it. I'm back to, strict carnivore. That's the problem. And eventually something stressful happens and you have a binge or you're back in that
mm.
cycle and then it's harder to get out of it the second time around or the third time around.
That's right, because like I don't know, the defenses that you built up against it seem to get broken down more easily once you fall into the binge, and then yeah.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I think honestly the best way to treat sugar and carbs when you go on a diet like this is, yeah, it's just like alcohol. It's got to be abstinence. And yeah, what was I going to say? It was to build on
It
that
happens
binge
to me
thing.
all the time. If it's important, it'll come back.
Ah, oh yeah, that's it. You'll get people that aren't carnivores saying to you, "Well, how long are you going to be doing this? When are you going to start eating normally again?" And that's the problem with the way people think about dieting, is that it's a short-term thing to achieve a goal. It's to fit into that dress for the wedding, or it's to, fit into that suit for going out to something. It's got to be a long-term thing. It's got to be basically permanent.
Agreed. It's like asking, okay, so for how long are you going to feed that lion in the zoo meat? Is it, like when are you going to go back and give them regular food? It's like that's their species specific diet. Like lions eat
Mm,
meat. Humans are carnivores, just like lions. We eat meat. Dogs and cats, they eat meat. Now, they're not going to drop dead if you feed them something else. We obviously give kibble, which is full of grains and carbs, to our pets, but they get sick, whereas wolves don't get sick in the wild, right? They don't get the same
mm,
diseases that dogs get. And that's because wolves are eating their species specific diet. So it's hard
mm,
for people to remember that. And it's just so wild to me, the like what those food companies have been able to achieve with their marketing dollars and funding 11 times more nutrition science compared to our government. Like all of that, muddying the water scientifically and in
Mm.
the messaging that we get, so that we forgot our species specific diet. And now we think that processed foods coming out of a package is actual food for us. So,
And healthy, and people, some people will take something out of a packet and say, I got the healthy one. And
right.
it's like, it's coming out of a packet, it's not healthy.
It's got an ingredient list. It's not food. It's a science fair
Yeah,
project. Yes.
exactly.
Love that.
That's a good way of looking at it, a science fair project.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's learn a little bit more about you. So you're in Japan, you have a full-time job, you teach English, right? And then
Yeah.
you're really focused on your new YouTube channel, which is doing so fantastic. I'm so happy to see this community growing. With the new YouTube channel with the carnivore diet. So it's only been a year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even. No, like for the channel. Uh, October is when I posted my first video.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's
So
amazing.
it's just I'm still kind of thinking to myself, how did this happen?
Especially that you had
And
another YouTube channel, which, you know how hard it is to grow,
mm,
And so now with
and
this, it's like so
it
fast.
just exploded. And yeah, I'm just kind of shaking my head thinking what happened? I still can't imagine how it's possible that I can, just press go live on a live stream and, within minutes there's 200 people in there, it's just crazy.
Wow. Wow. And
Yeah.
you know what I think it is? We're all so angry that we've been
Mm.
lied to, you know? So once you figure it out by yourself and you lose the respect you had for so many authority figures, so many doctors, health professionals, it's like it changes everything in your life, not just your health. It changes the way you look at
Mm.
authority or large organizations like the American Heart Association, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the WHO. Like it's like you're awake, the wokeness that the people are then woke when it actually works for them, the carnivore diet. And then they're like, wow, I cannot believe, your whole worldview shifts. And so now when you realize there are other people who also woke up to this, then you wanna listen to them, you wanna connect with them. I find the carnivore community to be such a close knit community that everybody's supporting one another. We go all get excited when we hear a new story and a new success story and somebody new joining us.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. I think, yeah, once you've had your eyes opened, it really is, you really want to connect a lot more with like-minded people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are your plans? I feel like you're excited about the growth of the YouTube channel, so I feel like, and tell me whenever I'm wrong, just tell me. But here's what I'm thinking.
Sure.
You're excited about your YouTube channel. You're gonna focus on it, keep growing it and growing it and growing it more. Eventually, it's gonna become your full-time job because you can make millions of dollars from a YouTube channel, but you can never make $1 million being employed, right? So that would be a great, exciting thing to go shoot for. And
Mm.
and then after that, yeah, am I right? Am I on the right track?
Look, I mean, of course, I'd love it if I had a YouTube channel that made me $1 million. But you know, really, for me right now, and I've got no idea where it's going. Um, you know, I've been asked, I've been asked that quite a few times, and I'm always like, I don't know, because I'm still trying to work out why I'm at this point already. Anyway, but I think for me at the moment, it's just I really like connecting with people in this community, and I really like their reactions to things. And you know, some people, on Twitter as well in this community have got such quick-witted and clever reactions to things. And I'm feeling like I'm learning so much from these people that I want to keep putting out my content because it helps me connect with everyone. So yeah, at this stage, I'm just trying to keep a bit of a schedule of getting information out, and I'm kind of playing it by ear. Well, I am playing it by ear about everything else related to it.
Yeah, yeah, it happens so quickly that you're still trying to grapple, like, okay, what do I do with this? Where, yeah, I know, I completely
Mm,
understand. How many I think was it your channel that I saw you're posting a lot? Is it every day? A YouTube?
almost every day, yeah. I
Yes,
like I took Sunday off this week, but yeah, almost every day.
that's amazing. Yeah,
Mm.
I should do that. It's hard because they
Yeah.
expect me to do the timestamps now. I can't go back and not do the timestamps. So, but I just hired somebody, so they're doing the timestamp for me. So I'm like, "Phew, it's
Oh,
really
nice.
speeding things up, right?" Do you do them? Do
Nice.
you do the timestamps?
Um, I did do it for a couple of videos, and then I was just like, oh, this is slowing me down so much. So I just leave it up to YouTube. Just YouTube, put the automated timestamps in there if you can. And
Wait, YouTube
it,
does
it, it I mean, it does an okay job. I mean, it's pretty messy sometimes, but like it's pretty good at identifying, like a next segment in your video, but
that?
it does make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like I've got one that I had to change because it had the intro was like, 80% of the video, and I was like, what?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not foolproof.
I had no idea YouTube did that. You learn something new every day. So
Yeah.
let me see if we want to go back to the carnivore topic. What would be
Mm.
your biggest advice to people who are maybe hesitant a little bit and have heard so many, keep hearing about this carnivore diet? What would be your biggest advice to them?
If they're interested but they're hesitant, I would say get on Facebook, join the carnivore groups on Facebook, follow some carnivore YouTubers, um, especially the kind of YouTubers that are, not necessarily the big people, but maybe, someone who's starting out that's got 1,000 subscribers or something, and they're just documenting their journey. Follow these kind of people and just watch what happens. Because, like, if you look at someone, I mean, she's really big now. She's got a lot of subscribers now, Carnivorous Me. Um, but if you look at Amanda from Carnivorous Me, um, when she started, she was just like, sitting in her living room. She's just making videos. And she's like, I've got to do this. I've finally decided I've got to do this diet and turn things around. And like, you look at her first video and you look at a video of her now, and it's a different person. And it's following people like that. And especially if you can find some of these newer YouTubers that you can actually follow the journey with them. And that's going to give you the motivation and the kind of um the that little kind of push to get you started.
That's great advice. I think this is the second time I've heard the carnivorous me name. I'm gonna have to look her up and look at
Mm.
her, transformation and all that kind of stuff. Great advice. Let's see. Where do you, that I know that's kind of like repeating a little bit what we're talking about, but I do want to ask you this. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Well, one thing is I still see myself on the carnivore diet. Um, I would like to I'd obviously like to see my channel grow, and I'd like to maybe vary the kind of videos that I'm putting out on my channel. Um, I like I like the channels that you can see, like that they've grown so much that they can invest a lot of money in the production quality of the videos. And I'd like to be able to put out a high level of video, still promoting the carnivore diet, but maybe doing it in different ways, maybe doing it via skits and stuff like that. Maybe, I was talking with some other carnivore people that I've been collaborating with, about how we could maybe put together some skits and stuff like that, just as it is. That stuff really interests me. And one of the things that I love about that is, and even when you're collaborating with people, especially,
You
like,
froze
just
for like 5 seconds, so I didn't catch that last thing you said.
okay. So Um, I love the ability to collaborate with other people, making these kind of um, uh, different types of videos. And the great thing about this is, even when you all make mistakes when you're filming, it's just like you just have a good laugh, you know. It's such an enjoyable experience. Um, I I'd like to be doing something like this full time, but just expanding it out and doing much more in the way of collaborations, I think.
I love that. Yes, growing on YouTube is so exciting. And then you don't have to only share the carnivore aspect of it, because we're complex human beings with various interests, and eventually you can start branching out into additional things.
Mm.
And that also attracts a new audience. It doesn't have to be just a carnivore audience, and then this new audience will keep hearing you talk about this carnivore diet, and then maybe, you'll help change their lives indirectly that way as well. So it's really exciting, and I'm here to support you and support everybody in the carnivore community. So it's going to be very exciting and interesting to see your growth on this journey. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you very much.
Where can people find you, Dave?
They can find me on YouTube. They can go to type in No Carb Life, which is the name of the channel, or the handle is at Zero Carb. And
The
I'm
YouTube
also,
handle.
yes.
Okay.
So the title of the channel is slightly different to the handle.
Right.
Um, and yeah, I'm also on Twitter. I've just started a Twitter, so real zero carb. Yeah, real zero carb.
I'll look them up and I'll post them in the description box below so people can find you easily. We have to get you on Instagram next.
Yeah.
There's a huge community on Instagram. I actually have
Mm.
more followers on Instagram than on YouTube, and I think it's because on YouTube, you have to know the person before you invest a certain amount of time watching them. Because if you don't know them, why would you waste 50 minutes to an hour of your life watching this brand new person? What if, it's just a waste and you don't like that message? Whereas on Instagram, you can get a hit of that person in literally a split second, and so it's easier to cast a kind of wide net. And then you bring them over to
Mm.
YouTube, where you go deeper into the topic and you get to connect with your audience, and they get to learn more about you on a more deeper level. So it's like, I love both of those platforms. Twitter, I need to
Mm.
get better at. I do have a Twitter, but not very good at keeping it posted like as much as I post on all the other platforms. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm struggling with it a bit as well, because it's Twitter's one of these things. If you're not very active, you may as well not be active at all. So yeah, I'm trying to find the right balance of using Twitter.
Yeah, yeah, it can get very overwhelming very quickly when the more you start
Mm.
doing social media, because the more you work, the more you post, the more people you're gonna get, and the more impact, influence, and you're gonna share the message better. But at the same time, that means like every time you want to take a little break, you feel guilty. you know,
Yeah.
because you feel like, oh, I could be pumping out one new video or one new post or whatever. So it's just something that we have to kind of learn how to deal with that, you know?
Mm,
So,
exactly.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dave. I am so happy for your success and thank you for sharing your story with us. Um, I know that we'll probably collaborate in the future again. So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited to see your growth journey. And for everybody that is still with us, thank you so much for sticking with us till the end. If you enjoyed this type of content, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.